Okay, so the uniform distribution of burst arrival directions tells us that the distribution of gamma ray burst sources in space is a sphere or spherical shell with us at the center. Some other extremely contrived and implausible distributions are also uh, uh, some other extremely contrived and implausible distributions are also possible, but Copernicus taught us that we are not in a special preferred position in the universe. Earth is not at the center of the solar system. The sun is not at the center of the galaxy, and so forth. There is no reason to believe we are at the center of the distribution of gamma ray bursts. If our instruments are sensitive enough to detect bursts at the edge of the spatial distribution, then they should not be isotropic in the sky, contrary to observation. If our if our observations or if our instruments are less sensitive, then the don't know some mathematical law should hold. Also contrary to observation, that is the Copernican dilemma. To this day, after the detection of several thousand bursts, and despite earnest efforts to show the contrary, no deviation from a uniform random distribution in the directions of gamma ray bursts in the sky has ever been convincingly demonstrated. Jonathan Katz. Again, very simply, just that the Earth is clearly in the center, and it's the most viable framework, and that to even claim the antithesis, you can't even come up with a theoretical explanation.
Or at least the solar system is in the center. It doesn't necessarily mean the Earth is in the center.
It literally says the Earth is the center of the solar system in the quote. What are you talking about? He literally says Earth is not at the center of the solar system, is what Copernicus taught. So what are you talking about? He said that from Earth's
that's
position,
where the Copernican principle gets its name from that, because he said, just like the Earth is not at the center of the solar system, maybe we are not the center of the universe.
Okay, so that's what he's saying. He's saying, but Copernicus taught us that we're not in a special preferred position in the universe, and that the Earth is not at the center of the solar system. But he's explaining that the uniform distribution of burst arrivals in all directions from the Earth shows that the Earth is in the center. Jeez. This is Cognitus 101, man.
I bet if you... Go ahead. I disagree with that characterization, but go ahead.
Okay. I think you're trying to simultaneously hold contradictory beliefs. So, cosmology is not even astrophysics. All the principal assumptions in this field are unverified or unverifiable in the laboratory, and researchers are quite comfortable with inventing unknowns to explain the unknown. How then could, after 50 years of failed attempts in finding dark matter, the fields of dark matter, dark energy, have become such lofty Dang, I went out. Sorry. How then could, after 50 years of failed attempts in finding dark matter, the fields of dark matter, dark energy, have become such lofty priorities in astronomy funding, to the detriment of all other branches of astronomy? I demonstrate in this article that while some of this is based upon truth, at least just as much of ACDM cosmology has been propped by a paralyzing amount of propaganda, which suppress counter evidence and subdue competing models. I believe astronomy is no longer heading towards a healthy future, unless funding agencies rethink their master plans. Sorry, guys. I need to sit up again. Okay. I believe astronomy is no longer heading towards a healthy future unless funding agencies rethink their master plans by backing away from such high an emphasis on groping in the dark. Richard Liu, his book, 2007.
So it sounds like you know what this is? These are a vast amount of people waking up that are much deeper than someone like myself is, because I didn't hinge my success in my life on some of these theories, and my colleagues believing it, and all of this, and the many sleepless nights. Like, these people have that to contend with, and still they're saying, hey, you know what? And they're saying it in a nice way. They're like, this isn't adding up. They're like the beginnings of us flat earthers. That's what they are. That's the beginning of how you end up here.
Even those who are most effective in trying to suppress the knowledge of the truth and unrighteousness in themselves, they never do it absolutely flawlessly.
Yeah, that's an interesting quote. I mean, it sounds like more and more cosmologists are coming to the conclusion that the solar system is in a privileged position.
Yeah.
When you're in the darkness and the truth comes, the darkness cannot overcome the light of the truth. No matter how much you try to suppress the light of the truth in darkness, the darkness cannot overcome the light, even in the most darkened and hardened heart.
So if Earth is at rest relative to the ether, then it alone is at rest. What makes us pretty, or that makes us pretty special? Do you really want to return to the perioc? I don't even know how to say the word. Anyone want to help a brother out?
Let me see.
P. I don't want to pronounce.
Parochial.
Parochial.
You said that
Ah,
earlier.
interesting. So if Earth is at rest relative to the ether, then it alone is at rest. That makes us pretty special. Do you really want to return to the parochial, pre-Copernican idea? Do you really think that you and your planet are so special that in all the rich vastness of the universe, you alone can be claimed to be at rest? Physicist Richard Wolfson. look how triggered they get because of their
So,
philosophy.
so again, the context is: do we really think that everything we've built in the last 500 years is totally garbage? That's what he's asking you.
Exactly. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh wait.
Do you want a break? Do you want someone else to read for you? And then, of course, you can say whatever you want. Where'd you go?
Oh, ladies' night starting soon. All right, I'm about to breeze through the. I'm about to get faster. Okay. Additionally, we must take seriously the idea that the acceleration apparently indicated by supernova data could be due to large-scale inhomogeneity with no dark energy. Observational tests of the latter possibility are as important as pursuing the dark energy or exotic physics option in homogeneous universe. Theoretical prejudices
You
as
know,
to
homogeneous.
theoretical theoretical prejudice as to the universe's geometry and our place in it must bow to such observational tests. Precisely because of the foundational nature of the Copernican principle for standard cosmology, we need to fully check this foundation. And one must emphasize here that standard CMB and anisotropy, I hate these words, studies do not prove the Copernican principle. They assume it at the start. George Ellis, Inhomogeneity Effects in Cosmology. It's a
Anisotropy.
big part. Anisotropy. Yeah, dude, I'm terrible at that word. I hate it. All right, Matthew, you get that part, right? We don't have to talk about it. We don't got time. They assume it at the start. All right. Thus, we may
Yeah,
return
it
to
might be
Ptolemy's.
false. Yep.
Yeah, thus we may return to Ptolemy's point of view of a motionless Earth. One has to show that the transformed metric can be regarded as produced according to Einstein's field equations by distant rotating masses. This has been done by Thuring. We read that one already. He calculated a field due to a rotating, hollowed, thick-walled sphere and proved that inside the cavity it behaved as though there were centrifugal and other inertial forces usually attributed to absolute space. Thus, from Einstein's point of view, Ptolemy and Copernicus are equally right. I do have it cited here, though, if anyone wants to save that. Okay, next. The popular belief that Copernicus's heliocentric system constitutes a significant simplification of the Ptolemaic system is obviously wrong. The choice of the reference system has no effect on the structure of the model, and the Copernican models themselves require about twice as many circles as the Ptolemaic models and are far less elegant and adaptable. You remember your claim earlier, Matthew, where you said the opposite of that? Yeah. The choice of the reference system has no effect on the structure of the model, and the Copernican models themselves require about twice as many circles as the Ptolemaic models and are far less elegant and adaptable. Modern historians make ample use of the advantage of hindsight, stress the revolutionary significance of the heliocentric system and the simplification it had introduced. In fact, the actual computation of planetary positions follows exactly the ancient patterns, and the results are the same. The Copernican solar theory is definitely a step in the wrong direction for the actual computation as well as for the underlying kinematic concept. Wow.
Yeah, because it
Otto,
should be ellipses, not circles.
Sorry, just a second. Kai's decided to vacuum.
The Earth is flat.
Yeah, probably. I'll just agree with the vacuum. The Copernican principle states that humans are not privileged observers of the universe and provides our philosophical basis for assuming that on the largest scales, the universe is spatially homogeneous. Almost got me again. While it is one of the foundational aspects of modern cosmology, this assumption remains untested outside of the standard paradigm. Though it may seem pedantic to test something so obvious, the standard paradigm itself is built on shaky foundations, relying on an unexplained gravitationally repulsive dark energy component for observations to fit the model. The implications of this cannot be overstated. Assuming that the laws of physics do apply equally everywhere in the universe, the only non-Copernican configuration possible is one in which we live in a place that originates from special initial conditions, and testing the Copernican principle by constraining spatial homogeneity. Okay. Oh, I don't know if I dropped that one, but whatever. Sorry, I'm really trying to get these in. Matthew, I don't see how you can walk away from this and still think that you have any actual ground to stand on.
Oh, I have lots of ground to stand on. No, yeah.
Okay. Although dark energy may seem a bit contrived to some, the Oxford theorists are proposing an even more outrageous alternative. They point out that it's possible that we simply live in a very special place in the universe. Specifically, we're in a huge void where the density of matter is particularly low. The suggestion flies in the face of the Copernican principle, which is one of the most useful and widely held tenets in physics. Copernicus was among the first scientists to argue that we're not in a special place in the universe, and that any theory that suggests that we're special is most likely wrong. The principle led directly to the replacement of the Earth-centered concept of the solar system with a more elegant sun-centered model. Dark energy may seem like a stretch, but it's consistent with the venerable Copernican principle. The proposal that we live in a special place in the universe, on the other hand, is likely to shock many scientists. American Physical Society, Dark Energy, Is It Merely an Illusion, 2008. My goodness, bro.
What supposedly is dark energy and matter?
They don't know. It's undefined.
Oh, well, how about that?
Yeah, it's literally undefined. It is shown that the cosmological interpretation of the redshift in the spectra of quasars leads to yet another paradoxical result, namely that the Earth is the center of the universe. YB Varshney. Hey, how are paradoxes more logically founded? I must be missing something. Here's another one about Michelson Morley. The data were almost unbelievable. There was only one other possible conclusion to draw, that the Earth was at rest. Bernard Haffey. I can't believe I have this many, dude. Jeez Louise. We got 5 more minutes. The failure of the many attempts to measure terrestrial effects of the Earth's motion and physical phenomena goes on to explain relativity's role in explaining away this problem. Wolfgang Pauli, we did read that one earlier, but that one is cited. Here is again your boy Eddington. The Michelson-Morley experiment thus has failed to detect our motion through the ether because the effect looked for, the delay of one of the light waves, is exactly compensated by an automatic contraction of the matter forming the apparatus. This is where they took the Lorentz Fitzgerald idea of contraction and applied it to the apparatus to explain away the Michelson-Morley, saying that the physical tool for measurement within the apparatus was shrinking, but wasn't detectable. Oh yeah, we're unfounded. You know, the Earth's at rest, or that thing shrunk and you just can't tell. What a clown world. All right. Oh man, this is a long one. The explanation which had the most appeal in accounting for the negative result of the Michelson-Morley experiment was one that was literally dreamed up for the purpose. Listen carefully, Matt. It is so-called Fitzgerald-Lorentz contraction. In 1893, Fitzgerald suggested that all objects contracted in the direction of their motion through the ether. He reasoned that if ordinary objects flattened out upon impact with other objects, a rubber ball hitting a wall or a ripe tomato dropped on the floor, for example, then why would it not be possible for objects that move through the ether to have the force of the ether push them in or contract them? This would adequately explain the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment. The arm of the interferometer moving against the ether would be shortened so that even though the light wave traveling in that particular arm might be slowed down by the ether wind, this would be compensated for by having its path shortened. Objections to the Fitzgerald-Lorentz contraction hypothesis were rampant, as was to be expected, not only because there was no evidence to prove that such an effect took place, but particularly because Fitzgerald could not explain why objects would contract due to motion through the ether. The contraction hypothesis was originally advanced only as a possible explanation for Michelson and Morley results, providing such an effect existed. Wow. Then to the theory said that all materials traveling with the same velocity with respect to the ether would contract the same fractional amount. Since iron is much heavier and stronger than wood, for example, one would expect a greater contraction for wood than for iron, but this too went unanswered. I mean, that's a pretty impactful quote, actually. I mean, just point blank, so that's just a
Yeah, it's
pseudoscience.
an interesting thesis. Interesting.
Let's see what we got here.
Very.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's so obvious what happened. There's an ether with a slight drift, and the Earth doesn't move. All right, the problem which now faced science was considerable, for there seemed to be only three alternatives. The first was that the Earth was standing still, which meant scuttling the whole Copernican theory and was unthinkable. Wow, science. The second was that the ether was carried along by the Earth and its passage through space. The third solution was that the ether simply did not exist, which to many 19th century scientists was equivalent to scrapping current views of light, electricity, and magnetism and starting again. Ronald W. Clark, Einstein, The Life and Times, pages 109 to 110. And that's what they did. They literally did that. And they still can't explain anything now. It's just so stupid. All right, one more minute. In the Ptolemaic system, the Earth is considered to be at rest and without rotation in the center of the universe, while the Sun, other planets, and fixed stars rotate around the Earth. In relational mechanics, this rotation of distant matter yields the force. Now, the gravitational attraction of the Sun is balanced by a real gravitational centrifugal force due to the annual rotation of distant masses around the Earth, with a component having a period of 1 year. In this way, the Earth can remain at rest in an essentially constant distance from the Sun. The diurnal rotation of the distant masses around the Earth with a period of 1 day yields a real gravitational centrifugal force flattening the Earth at the pole. Of course, that's assuming it's a sphere. You don't got to worry about it because it's just flat. Foucault's pendulum is explained by a real Coriolis effect, a real Coriolis force acting on moving masses over the Earth's surface. The effect of this force will be to keep the plane of oscillation of the pendulum rotating together with the fixed stars. Uh-oh. So that's a very impactful quote as well. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. Because I think they are about to do Ladies' Night, right?
Oh, yes, it's ladies' night.
I'll send this one as to end it up. This is pretty good for you, Matthew. Again, once more for the record, it has been shown at least 6 different ways this century alone that the equations in physics used by NASA to launch satellites, quote unquote, are identical to the equations derived from a geocentric universe. Thus, if the space program is proof of anything, which it's not, it proves geocentricity and disproves heliocentrism. The evidence for the heliocentrism is even weaker than the evidence for evolution.
Those are some great quotes. Thanks for gathering all those. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I would say maybe I should take a look. There may be evidence that we do live in a special portion of the universe. Also, that you can choose what reference frame you're using, just like the one you just said right here. Maybe we should use the Earth as a reference frame.
Another very important fact to consider for everyone, including Matthew, is everyone in their worldview with their epistemology has an ultimate authority. Everyone is operating by someone's say-so in their theory of knowledge. Whose say-so are you going to take? The God, the Almighty, the Omniscient One, the Supreme Being, or someone who is inferior to that?
Yeah,
I
overall,
can agree with that. Yep.
this little presentation, my overall point was simply that they have misled the masses, brainwashing us from like 5 up to pretend to know that the earth is in fact wobbling, tilted, spinning, revolving around the sun, and that this is definitive scientific fact, and we've known it for hundreds of years, and we've known the earth as a sphere for thousands of years. But when you actually pull back the veil of pseudoscience, you find out the truth is that in fact the geocentric model is not only just as viable, but more viable and more accurate to explain phenomena that we do observe, and at the highest levels of astrophysics and physics will tell you this very thing, including Einstein himself and even Stephen Hawking. And every time they claim there's proof of motion, they're going directly in the face of that very priesthood that they claim to believe. So in summary, they have masqueraded philosophy as science, and it was proposed by the church. So don't allow them to take your belief system and then mold it for you. Think for yourself, accept the hyperlogical aspects of reality. Thank you.
Masquerading true philosophy with unjustified arbitrarity and masquerading falsehood, lies as science, knowledge.
And with that, we should turn it over to the ladies' night.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
it's ladies' night, and the quotes are right. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night, the quotes are right. Oh, what a night.
I think I'm the only lady here, so I don't know if we're gonna have one.
Hello, Miss Lovely Luluka. How are you?
She left.
That's a different woman. That's
I'm
Kay.
KJ.
My Lord have mercy. I'm sorry.
I'm KJ.
KJ. Y'all sound similar, unless I forgot how Luluka sounds.
I think you forgot, because I don't think I sound like her at all.
That's exactly what I say between me and Elijah. But people keep confusing us. No matter
Really?
how much I try to deepen my yes. No matter how much I try to deepen my voice. This is Gregory.
I can tell
Not
you
Elijah.
definitely don't sound like Elijah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
difference to me.
Yeah.
I think so too. I'm glad I'm not crazy.
You have a similar timbre, but that's about it.
Oh, you say timber, not timbre?
It's English. I'm not great with English.
I mean, the way you said it looks like it's spelled. But then again, English.
Why do you think there's so many more men interested in flat Earth than there are women?
Why?
Men are in general more like interested in things, science and stuff like that than women.
Yeah, I think that's also the reason.
Can you prove that?
Yep.
Please do.
How many men are in this Discord?
No, prove it. No. Prove it overall what you said, not just about this tonight.
What do you mean?
That men are more interested in sciences instead of women.
Also, I would like to add that just because there's more men in an argumentative chat room doesn't mean that women don't respond
less
well
interested.
to this.
That's true.
Yeah. Inductive argument, but weak.
Yeah, I would actually make the argument that women are more capable, from my own experience, to accept the truth that the Earth is flat and stationary, more so than men, like maybe on average 10% more often capable of accepting the truth than men. But I think Discord servers is just more of a man thing.
Do you
less of a
reckon
woman
that's
thing.
because it's an ego thing? And men have like
Yeah, I
a
was about to
hard time
say,
letting go
that's
that you
what
I
I'm
think it
saying,
could be
huh?
that, but I think it's just general intelligence. It's just that women just are on average in certain ways more intelligent than men. There's just some
I
things
wouldn't
that
agree with
men
that.
are better at than women, some things that women are better at than men.